often asked is, what's it like to live in Thailand as an expat? Or what's it like to live in Thailand as a retiree? So I'm going to try and answer that today. I've lived in 10 different countries over my working life. Born in the UK, as you know. As soon as I could, I left the UK and I went to work in Bermuda. Prior to that, I'd lived as a youngster in Jamaica as a child when my father was transferred there to work on a building project back in 1953. And since then, I've lived in Falkland Islands, I've lived in Papua New Guinea, USA, Philippines, Singapore, many different countries. As I say, 10 to my thinking back, 10 to my knowledge. And I worked as I'm a chef. I worked in hotels around the world, and I also worked on cruise ships and other vessels, working vessels like support vessels for oil rigs and oil tankers, and even Antarctic vessel I worked on. Went down to the Antarctic taking expeditions down there. So I've lived in many countries and I've visited many countries. Thailand is different things for different people. When I first came to Thailand, 1983 I think it was, I just turned 30, and Thailand for me then was about partying and having a good time. I'm 70 now, and though I still love to party and have a good time, now it's more about the quality of life that I can get and the lifestyle that Thailand offers. When I first came to Thailand all of those years ago, back in 1983, for me money was not a problem. As I was young, I had a good job, and I had what I thought was going to be a bright future. I'm 70 now and living on my pension and my investments, and I have to make sure that my money doesn't run out before I do, as I don't want to be running out of funds before I go to meet my maker and have to scrape by living from hand to mouth week to week. So the all-important reason for me living in Thailand is being able to enjoy my life and have a good lifestyle without it breaking the bank. What's it like to live and retire in Thailand? Well, first of all, the cost of living is low compared to most Western countries, and definitely lower than my home country, the UK, and my two main adopted countries where I spent a lot of time, Australia and the USA. Secondly, the climate is for me one of the best in the world here in Thailand. Yeah, we have a wet season, but I even like that. To me, sunshine 52 weeks of the year is monotonous and boring. I mean, I love sunshine, I love the beach, and I don't really like the rain. We've just had a really bad downpour here over the last few weeks, and it's not something I like, but it's something that I know that it's part of living. If it doesn't rain, you got no water to drink, and also, which more importantly, you need water to make beer and wine. So we've got to have rain. But for the majority of the year, the weather's fantastic. It's hot, sunny, and not too hot. It's not like being in Saudi Arabia or anywhere like that. I'm living on an island. You've got the nice breezes, as well as the hot sunshine, and you've got the sea to jump into and the swimming pool if you have one as well to cool down if the weather gets too hot. I suppose the third reason I chose to live in Thailand is the people. The majority of Thai people, not all, but the majority, are welcoming and love that foreigners like their country so much. So much that they've decided to live here. Thais are fiercely proud of their country, and they're taught from their early school days to be loyal to their king, to their country and to their family. But loyalty has been tested in recent years since King Nine's death in 2016, and since the army coup that happened 2 years before in 2014. And today there's ongoing political protests in Bangkok at the present time by people who want to see change. They don't see Thailand as heading in the right direction. It's the younger people, the university students, the young people who are a bit worried for the future of Thailand and would like to see it take a different turn and a different way of how they're going to go forward in the future. Also, another reason I like living here is that living in Thailand gives me access to other neighbouring Southeast Asian countries, such as Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, even the Philippines. They're not that far away. So that's another reason. It's not all about Thailand. Thailand is quite central to Southeast Asia if you want to go somewhere else. But the problem is all of those trips that I would like to have taken over the last few years have been put on hold since COVID-19 arrived. Another thing I like about Thailand is the chaos and unpredictability of living here in the country, and not just Thailand, Southeast Asia, or most of Southeast Asia. Over the years I've read some people's comments and listened to people talk about Thailand, about it being a third world country, about it being backward compared to Western countries. But to be honest, that's what I like about Thailand. I love the markets that sell food in what would be thought of in the West as unhealthy or unhygienic. I love the dangerous roads with potholes and the curvy, bendy roads. Even the crazy drivers make me laugh sometimes, though not when they crash into me and put me in hospital. I love the dogs and chickens wandering along the streets, and the traders walking along the beaches selling everything from barbecued sweet corn to donuts, from sunglasses to a massage, from clothes to a pedicure. I love all that. I love the unpredictability. I love the fact that things are different here than in the West. Living most of my life in England and later in Australia, I hated all of the petty rules and bureaucracy that governments inflict on their people. Thailand suffers from bureaucracy too, but looking at the news from the USA, Europe, the UK, Australia, all around the world, with all of this woke nonsense and hundreds of different sexual orientations that we now have, I'm glad that I live here. In Thailand we only have 3 types of sexual orientation. That's boys, girls and ladyboys. So that's another reason I love Thailand. The rest is so confusing for me when all of the other orientations that are out there now, I have to call somebody them or not her or him. I have to now call them them, apparently, which is, for someone who grew up in a different age, is very confusing for me. Here in Thailand I can eat out for about 30 baht, $1. I can go to a cocktail bar and pay less than $4 for a lovely cocktail. My rent is about 10,000 baht a month, which works out about $400 a month or $100 a week. From what I see on the news in the UK, petrol is half the price of what I would pay if I lived in those countries. So the whole thing of living here, my money stretches a lot further. And I think if you don't have money problems, if you can live within your means, then you're going to be a happier person. You know, Australia's a great country. All my family live there, and to be honest, I would like to live there. I think if it wasn't for the cost of living, I would have stayed in Australia. But the problem with living in Australia is that my money would not stretch very far. If I had to just live on my pensions, and my investments would, I think they would have run out by now if I'd stayed 5 years in Australia instead of 5 years in Thailand, because I would have been digging into my investments each month to subsidise my way of life. Living in Thailand, I haven't touched my investments since I moved here. I live on my pension, and I live very well on my pension. I'm not struggling, but if I was in Australia, all my pension would be taken up with paying rent, paying food. There wouldn't be anything left at the end of the week for going out and enjoying myself, and there definitely wouldn't be any money left for travel. I would have to dig into my investments and savings for that. Whereas here, every week I just spend my pension, and sometimes I don't spend it all, and then it builds up in the bank, and then when I want to travel, I've got the money sitting in the bank. I still don't have to touch investments or my savings. Living on an island is obviously more expensive because of the logistics of getting things to and from the island. Also because they can, you know, you can't go anywhere. If you're on an island, you can't just nip across to the mainland and go shopping. So they can really charge what they want. But you get what you pay for, and the little extra that I pay is well worth it to be able to live on a tropical island. It's not all champagne and roses living in Thailand. There are downsides about living in the land of smiles. One of those is I'm about 7,000 kilometres away from my children and grandchildren in Australia. I had intended on, when I first came to Thailand, I had intended on going back to Australia to visit my family every year. But since COVID arrived, I haven't been able to travel or go back to see them in a couple of years now. Other reasons that Thailand can disappoint some people is the corruption that seems to be everywhere in the country, and it's part and parcel of living here. It's evident in politics, it's evident in the police force. It seems to be that anyone in a position of authority is open for corruption. Dual pricing for Farang and Thai nationals is, for me, it's not a big problem, but it's annoying. A Farang will nearly always pay more for goods and services if they go to a smaller shop. If I go into a chemist to buy some headache tablets or sunscreen, I'm going to be charged more than a Thai person. What I normally do when I need something that's going to be a little bit expensive, I ask a Thai person to go shopping for me and they pick it up, rather than me going in and paying the premium price for it. The reason for this is that a Farang is always seen as rich. It doesn't matter, they don't look at me as a pensioner, they look at me as a Farang, and in most Thai people's eyes, a Farang is rich. They see people coming here on holiday from Europe, USA, all around the world, spending money that they don't have, spending here. So their view of Farang is that they are rich. They don't see that they can be poor Farang. They don't see that because poor Farang don't come to Thailand. So they view us as being rich, and that we can pay more, and that's what they do. It's not as if they're being vindictive or anything like that. They just looking at an opportunity. They see somebody walking their shop, they assume has money, they think, okay, I can charge a little bit more and get a little bit more for my family. The problem is there's not many places around the world where you get charged according to your skin colour, but that seems to happen in Thailand. It happens a lot. And as I say, if you go to a national park, if I go with my girlfriend, then there's no charge for her, but I'll be charged. I know that if I went to a national park in the USA or the UK, they don't say, oh, you're from Thailand, you have to pay more, but you're English, you can go in. So that's always it's not a big problem, but it's one of them little things, niggly things that annoy me about living in Thailand. Then there's the endless paperwork that seems to go when you live in Thailand. It's part of everything that you do in Thailand. For some reason they don't use computers much. They write everything down, type everything out. They don't put it onto a computer program, so when you go back there next time they just click a little switch and all your details come up. No, it's all written down in paper, and that's whether you're going to the bank, registering your vehicle, paying a bill, going to see a doctor or dentist. Whatever you do, there's always reams and reams of paper involved. So that's another little niggly thing that makes it not a bad place to live, but it's annoying, I suppose. Bangkok is quite bad for pollution with their overcrowded roads, millions of cars and motorbikes polluting the air with their noxious gases. Also in Chiang Mai, where every year between February and April the air pollution levels soar to dangerously high levels. This is predominantly because of the farmers' practice of slash and burn to clear their fields ready for the next season's crops. As I say, Thailand, it's not for everyone. Some people come here, they love it. Some people come here, they hate it. That's the same wherever you go around the world. Everyone's different, so what you like and what you expect from your lifestyle is going to be a lot different from mine or somebody else's. Everyone's different. But all I can say is that for me, Thailand ticks most, but not all of the boxes. But I've never found a country in all my life of travelling that ticks all of the boxes. I think for me this is as good as it's going to get. So if you're thinking about making Thailand your home in retirement, or if you're thinking about taking a longish holiday, after being locked up because of COVID for close to 2 years now, when things start to get better and you get the confidence to travel again, and you think you want to go and spend a few months somewhere, and Thailand's on your list, come and have a look at it. I would say that to anyone coming here. I met a couple in Malaysia when I was doing research for one of my books. I met a couple in Penang. They'd been going to Penang and all of Malaysia for many, many years, and they always, like me, I said about Thailand, I always said one day I think that's where I'd like to retire. Well, they thought the same about Malaysia. So they spent their working life in the UK, Basingstoke I think it was, and with the idea that they would retire there to Malaysia when the time came. I met them, they'd been there about 8 months, they'd been in Penang, and they found out that yes, nothing's changed in Penang. It was still a beautiful place, it was still a lovely country, Malaysia, but what they didn't take into consideration is when you go on holidays somewhere, it's not the same when you try to live somewhere. When you go on holidays, your family are waiting there 2 weeks later when you come back. Your dog's waiting for you, your job or your lifestyle is, after 2 or 3 weeks away on your holiday, you're going back to your normal life. When you retire somewhere, it's completely different. Your normal life is not in the country you'd left. Your normal life is now in, well, for me, Thailand, and for them it was Malaysia. and they found that they missed their families too much. They missed their friends. They missed the pub on a Friday night or Saturday night. They missed the darts game, or going for Sunday lunch in their local pub or restaurant. There were so many things they missed. They missed the weather even. Who would have thought it? You know, they missed the cold, wet nights. They're sitting watching the sun go down in Penang and thinking, oh, I wish I was back in the UK, where it was maybe -5 degrees at the time. So what I'm saying is yes, if you're going to go and retire somewhere, make sure you spend some quality time, not just holiday time in that country. Come and visit for 3 months, live there. Don't give up everything in your home country and sell everything and then make the commitment and then find that you've made a mistake. Take 3 months, 4 months, long holiday, then go back, talk about it, and if you're 100% sure, then sell your house. But what they did, they sold the house, they gave their dog to the daughter, they cut ties more or less with everything and moved to Malaysia. And when they found out they'd made a mistake, it was going to be an expensive mistake, because when they went back to the UK, they were then going to have to buy a house again, they're going to have to establish themselves again. So Thailand, same as any country, if that's what you're thinking, if you think, yeah, I want to go there and I want to live there, if you haven't spent any quality time, then do that first. Come and spend 3-4 months travelling around, or even if you don't feel like travelling around, in the town you want to live in. If it's Koh Samui, spend 4 months here, and make sure that in that 4 months is part of the wet season, not just the hot summer season. See the good with the bad, not just the good and what you see on holidays. When you're here, make inquiries about everything: how to open a bank account, how to get a driving license, how to do this, how to do that, how to rent a house, how to buy a house. Find out all them things. Spend 4 months here and go into everything. And then when you go back, then talk about it and discuss it with your families. And then if you feel 100% that you're ready to start your new life in a new country, then sell your house. Then make your final preparations to move. Not just think, oh, I've been there on holidays many times, I love living there, because holiday is completely different to living somewhere. So if there's anything I can help you with in the comments box, if you're thinking of coming to Thailand for a long holiday, or as a digital nomad, or as a retiree, anything I can help you with. I'm not saying I can answer all your questions. I'm not an expert on everything about Thailand, but I've lived here 5 years, and I've had to go through the normal process of getting visas, renting a house, buying a car, buying a motorbike, opening a bank account, all these things that you're going to need to do if you decide you want to come here. So if I can answer any questions, just put them in the comments box and I'll try my best to answer them for you. In the meantime, if you are thinking about retiring here, here's a little advertisement. Have a look at my Retiring Thailand Handbook. If you buy it, it'll help me pay the rent here, sort of continue my lifestyle. The more books I sell, the better life I can have. Take a look at my book, The Retiring Thailand Handbook. In fact, take a look at my Amazon book authors page. I've got 11 books, I think it is now. Some of them travel books, some of them are novels, but they're all well worth a read. More so in these bad COVID days where you're sat at home waiting for your life to start again, when you can finally travel and go to all the places you've missed out on in the last 2 years. So if you haven't already done so, please push the subscribe button. I promise it will cost you nothing. Also, push the thumbs up button, and if you know of anyone who might like to view my YouTube channel on Thailand, push the link button and send them the link. So until I see you in the next video, take care, stay safe, and keep smiling.
The fields of our